Hello and welcome to video 5 of 5 for the Decentralization Grant Program for 2021 from Arts Mid-Hudson. My name is Lilia Perez. I'm the Grants and Programs Manager for Arts Mid-Hudson. In this video, we're going to go over the individual artist commission budget. I'm going to open it up on Excel and show you how to fill it out, and then I'll provide some tips on how to complete your budget. So first, I'll show you where to find the budget form. You're going to go to our website, artsmidhudson.org, and just click here on this button that says 2021 Decentralization Grants. We're going to scroll down to how to submit a grant proposal, and you'll see right here the individual artist commission budget form Excel download. Once I click on this, it's going to download to my computer and get saved in my downloads folder. So I've downloaded the budget and opened it up in Excel. This often happens when you download something. It's going to say it's in protected view. Just click here to enable editing. So let's take a look at this together. First of all, you're going to enter in your name and the project title here. There are 4 sections on this budget form: the project revenue section, project expenses, a summary section, and a space for additional notes. So now I'm going to run through and fill out this budget. So first I'm going to enter in my name, I'm going to give it a title, and now I'm going to start entering in my revenue. So for a lot of artists, you may have nothing to enter in here, and that is perfectly fine. If you have any additional cash coming into the project, you'll want to note that here. And there are 2 sections: earned income. These are generated income like an admission price or concessions or workshop fees. And then contributed income. These are things like grants, sponsorships, or individual donations. What you do not want to include under contributed income is the $1,500 individual artist commission. If you enter that in, it will mess with the formulas that exist within the form, so just make sure you don't do that. And that's why we have this reminder here. We're saying other than Arts Mid-Hudson's grant. You're going to enter in the numeric value for each line item, and you're going to accompany that with an explanation. So it's really important that there isn't just a number dropped in here. There's an explanation to accompany it so that we know how you got to that number. So let's say as a part of this project, I'm going to be leading 3 workshops, and maybe I'm anticipating 10 participants, and they're going to pay $10 each, and I'm going to do 3, so I'm going to write times 3 workshops. That's a pretty clear description of how now I'm going to write that total amount is $300. Moving down to the contributed income section, one thing that's very important to note here is whether the income is projected or actual. Of course, if the income is already secured, that will help the feasibility of a project. However, we recommend to write projected or actual just to avoid the panel having to guess whether you already have the funding or not. So let's say I got a grant from the Community Foundation, so I'll write Community Foundation actual, and I'm going to write $1,000. And I didn't put the amount here because it's just one grant, so it's pretty clear. Let's say I'm also guessing that I'm going to seek out some individual donations for my project, and I'm guessing that maybe I'm going to get about $300 in individual donations. So I'll say $300 from crowdfunding, and I'll write projected. So now I've entered in some revenue. Again, this area may be completely blank for you, and that is fine. There is no cash match required. If anyone has applied to us previously, you'll notice that the in-kind section is no longer on this budget. If you've applied to us before, you'll notice that we no longer have the in-kind section here. So if you want to note any good contributions or donations that are coming into the project, you can do so in the grant proposal form. In the project expenses, we have 3 areas that you're going to complete. So we have an explanation column, the total project expenses, and then the grant request amount. In this column, you're going to write the total expense for each line item, and here you'll show how much of that expense you are asking us to pay for. So I'm going to start entering in some expenses, and I'll show you as I go how to complete this section. So first, let's say I am paying myself an artist fee, and I'm going to pay myself $1,000. I'm not going to enter anything for technical fees, but I'm going to jump to art supplies and materials. And let's say this is some kind of multimedia project. Maybe I'm using photography and paint and other mixed media, and I have a whole bunch of supplies. Let's say I need paint, glue, wood. Let's say I need some film, and I need other miscellaneous materials. So I'm going to write mixed media materials. And I'm estimating that the total amount is going to cost $800. Now, one thing that's new about the grant this year is that we are able to fund the purchase of permanent equipment. Let's say that I'm using 35mm film and I want to get a film scanner so that I can work with that film. So I'm going to write film scanner purchase, just so that's clear that I'm not renting it, I am buying it, and that's going to cost me $500. Let's say for this grant proposal, I am doing a public presentation. So let's say I'm going to rent a gallery space that's going to be $200, and I'll write gallery rental fee. I'll skip marketing expenses and just go down to postage and printing. So you may have some within a category that, they're two distinct expenses and you want to show how much they are separately. So for printing, for example, say I need to do some archival inkjet prints, and that's going to cost me $500. But I'm also printing out some flyers and some signage for my final presentation. So I'm going to write flyers and signage. Let's say in addition to the inkjet prints and the flyers and signage, I'm also printing out some postcards for the event. So we'll say postcards, another $50. And I'm adding this one in to show you what happens when you write more than what fits in this cell. So if you write more than what fits here, it's going to cut off half of it. And we don't want this to happen because when you export this at the end to PDF, we're only going to be able to see what it looks like right now, what's visible within the space allotted for the cell. So what I would do is copy this text up here and paste it down here into the budget notes section. And we don't need it in this section anymore. I'm going to write C budget notes, and let's give it an asterisk just in case you had multiple notes that you were setting them down here to look at. And I'm going to add an asterisk here, knowing that's the one we're talking about. And so now this is very clear. It didn't fit in this cell, so you're directing them down here to look at the budget notes. And now I'm going to add one more in here. Let's say I need a travel stipend, so let's do travel $50. So now what I've done is I've added in all of my expenses. I have all of my revenue up here. And down here in the summary, it's showing all of these things. So it's showing the total expenses, it's showing the total revenue, and it's showing the grant request amount, which is $1,500. And there's this big yellow block showing should match, which means the number that's listed here has to match with the number that ends up here. You get this number by entering in under the grant request column which of these expenses you are asking the grant to cover. So let's say I'm asking for the artist fee and for the film scanner. And so with those two expenses, now I'm at $1,500. These two numbers match, and it says right here, does this budget balance? Yes. I'm going to show you one more example here. So I'm going to take out this expense just to keep all the numbers playing nicely with each other and show you another example of an expense. You want to make sure that you are not asking us to fund any non-fundable expenses. So let's say for the opening of my gallery exhibit, I'm going to get some food. So I might write food for opening, and that's going to be $50. What we would not want to do is write $50 here under the grant request column. When you write that in here, then you're showing that you're asking the grant to cover this expense, and this is something we can't pay for. You don't need to exclude them from the budget. You just need to make sure that it does not appear as something you're asking us to fund in the grant request column. And so now our budget balances, and we're ready to export it and take a look at it and make sure everything looks good to go. So to export this to PDF in Excel, you're going to go to File, Export, Create PDF, and we're going to want to make sure we name this something very obvious, and then click Publish. And make sure when you export your PDF that you open it up and take a really close look at it and make sure that everything that you wrote here is visible to us. If you can't see it here, we can't see it either, because this is now PDF. None of these cells are expandable like they were in Excel. So I'm just going to scroll down and look. Everything looks pretty good to go. Nothing is getting cut off. But one thing that did happen is that it went to 2 pages. So I'm actually going to just jump back, and since that happened, there is a quick way to fix it, and it's a different way to export to PDF. So we're going to go to File, and instead of clicking on Export, we're going to click Print, and now we get a preview of what our export is going to look like, and we can see that it is on 2 pages, and it's showing that it's 2 pages down here. So a really quick fix is to just go ahead, click here, and select Fit Sheet to 1 page, and then that will make this all fit on 1 page. Under Printer, you're going to select Print to PDF. So I'm going to click that and click Print. And it's not going to print out to an actual printer. It's going to open up this box and ask you to save the file. Open this up, and we can see that now it all fits on 1 page. And scanning over it, it doesn't look like any of the text is getting cut off. So we're good to go. So I'll also show you how to import this into Google Sheets and how to export it. So if you have a Gmail account, you have Google Sheets for free. If you were in Gmail, you would just click on these dots and then select the app. This is visible from the entire Google Suite. And now here, I'm going to click on blank and open up a new document. Once I'm in the blank document, I'm going to import. Once I'm in the blank form, I'm going to go ahead and import the individual artist commission budget that I downloaded from Arts Mid-Hudson's website. So we're going to click on File, Import, Upload, and then select a file from your device. If you've moved the file somewhere else, you'll go there to pick it up, but if you've just downloaded it, it should be in your downloads folder. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to have it replace this spreadsheet. And so now you'll see that the whole budget form is uploaded here, and you'd work on it exactly the same as I showed you how I worked on it in Excel. So now I'll show you how to export to PDF. You're going to go to File, Download, PDF. It'll give you a preview here. You'll see that it's doing the same thing it did before. Another way to fix that problem is just by changing the percentage. So let's make it 95%. And now it fits. And it really is only reducing the size just a little bit. So this looks good to go. I'm going to click Export. So now that we filled in the budget on Excel and on Google Sheets, I want to go over some final tips. I recommend working on the narrative and budget together so that you can make sure that they're consistent, or working on the budget first. When you work on the budget first, then you'll have a map for how to write the rest of the grant proposal. You'll know what resources you already have, what your expenses are likely to be, and which areas you're going to request funding for. And then you can focus your grant proposal on those things, which is the most important thing to highlight while you're working on your grant proposal. Please make sure you use the explanation column as I pointed out when we filled out the budget form. Check the guidelines for allowable and non-fundable expenses. Allowable expenses are those that we would most like to pay for with the grant funds, and non-fundable expenses are things that we definitely cannot pay for. Make sure your grant request is equal to $1,500, and you can use this helpful formula: projected expenses minus additional income equals $1,500. If you don't have Excel, you can use Google Sheets as I pointed out, and as always, ask us to review a draft of your budget. I can review a draft of a budget very quickly, checking to make sure that everything is visible and clear and that the budget balances. Again, thank you for your interest in applying to the Individual Artist Commission. My name again is Lilia Perez. I'm the Grants and Programs Manager. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and good luck working on your budget and your grant proposal.